Here's the thing about Roman concrete that'll blow your mind. We just figured out in the last decade why their concrete actually gets stronger over time while ours crumbles after 50 years. When seawater seeps into the concrete, it triggers a chemical reaction that creates new minerals, literally healing cracks as they form. It's basically self-healing concrete, and they invented it 2,000 years ago. Believe it or not, the most expensive liquid in ancient Rome wasn't wine or olive oil. It was Tyrian purple dye. To make just 1 ounce, you'd need to crush the shells of about 9,000 sea snails. A single togaded purple could cost more than a villa, which is why only emperors could wear it full length. What's wild is that the Pantheon in Rome still holds a world record that no one's been able to beat for 2,000 years. Its massive dome is the largest unreinforced concrete dome on Earth, and engineers are still studying how the Romans managed to pour concrete that high without it collapsing under its own weight. Here's something that'll make modern postal delays seem even worse. The Romans had a state-run courier service called the Cursus Publicus that could move messages up to 50 miles per day using relay stations with fresh horses. It was basically the ancient internet connecting the entire empire from Britain to Syria. Believe it or not, Roman women had some serious economic power even without voting rights. They could own massive estates, run shipping companies, and initiate divorces just by declaring it. Yet they were completely barred from voting or holding office. Some wealthy women actually controlled empires of commerce from their homes. What's wild is that parts of Rome's sewer system are older than the Colosseum by 6 centuries, and they're still working. The Cloaca Maxima was built around 600 BCE to drain the marshes, and believe it or not, it still drains water from the Roman Forum during heavy rains today. Here's the craziest auction story you've never heard. In 193 CE, the Roman throne went up for sale, literally, and a wealthy senator named Didius Julianus bought it. He promised the Praetorian Guard 25,000 sesterces per soldier, which would be like paying every security guard millions to make you president. He ruled for 66 days before being beheaded.
Believe it or not, you can thank the Romans for affordable glassware.
They invented glass blowing in the 1st century BCE, probably in Syria, and it completely changed the game. Before that, glass was a luxury jewel-like material. After glass blowing, Romans had clear window glass and cheap bottles for the first time in history. What's wild is that Pompeii is basically a preserved ancient Twitter. Archaeologists have found over 11,000 pieces of graffiti there, including political campaign slogans, love poems to specific people, and brutal insults about innkeepers serving watered-down wine. Turns out humans haven't changed much in 2,000 years. Here's the thing about Roman engineering that puts modern stadiums to shame. The Colosseum could clear out 50,000 people in under 10 minutes using something called vomitoria. These weren't places to throw up. They were massive passageways that literally spewed crowds out into the streets. We still use the same design today. Believe it or not, Romans were building underwater concrete structures 2,000 years before we figured out how to do it. They would lower wooden forms into the sea and pour volcanic ash concrete directly into the water. It's set up almost instantly underwater, creating massive harbor breakwaters that are still there today. What's wild is that the world's first shopping mall was built in Rome around 110 CE. Trajan's Market wasn't just a few stalls, it was a massive multi-level complex with over 150 shops selling everything from spices to wine. It had offices, a library, and even an early food court. The Romans basically invented the weekend shopping trip. Here's something that'll mess with your head. The original Roman calendar had only 10 months and winter just wasn't counted. The year started in March, and there were 60 days in winter that had no month names at all. It wasn't until around 700 BCE that they added January and February, and even then, they were considered the unlucky months. Believe it or not, ancient Rome ran on fermented fish sauce. Garum was basically their version of ketchup, soy sauce, and salt all in one, and it was huge business. Factories in Spain mass-produced this stuff by fermenting fish guts in salt and amphorae of garum have been found from Britain to the Black Sea. What's wild is that being born in Rome wasn't a requirement to rule it. Trajan and Hadrian were both born in Spain. Septimius Severus came from North Africa, and Elagabalus was Syrian. By the 2nd century, Rome had become a truly multicultural empire where your birthplace didn't stop you from becoming the most powerful person in the world. Here's the thing about Roman roads that movies get wrong. Streets were often flooded with sewage and rainwater, so Romans built raised stepping stones across intersections. You can still see them in Pompeii, big stone blocks with gaps between them just wide enough for chariot wheels to pass through. It was basically an ancient crosswalk. Believe it or not, Romans had checking accounts. They had professional bankers called argentari who managed deposits, transfers between accounts, and even issued checks. They had laws capping interest rates, and wealthy Romans would diversify portfolios across shipping, land, and loans. It was surprisingly modern finance. What's wild is that we have actual written proof that Romans wore socks with sandals. Letters found at Vindolanda Fort near Hadrian's Wall include a soldier asking his family to send more socks because he'd used up his current pairs. Next time someone mocks the fashion choice, tell them it's a legitimate 2,000-year-old tradition. Here's the scientific breakthrough that explains everything. Recent scans of Roman concrete found it contains tiny lime clasts that are actually self-healing. When cracks form, water seeps in and dissolves these lime chunks, which then recrystallize to fill the gap. It's literally self-repairing concrete, and MIT only figured out how it works in the last few years. Believe it or not, the Emperor in Gladiator was based on a real guy who actually did fight in the arena. Commodus competed as a gladiator hundreds of times, though he usually fought disabled opponents or animals to guarantee win. He even charged Rome 1 million sesterces per appearance, essentially forcing the city to pay him to beat up their own citizens.
Here's ancient air conditioning for you.
Romans didn't just suffer through summer. They stored massive amounts of snow in insulated pits called nivaria, then used it to cool drinks and even rooms. Wealthy homes circulated water through wall fountains, so evaporation would drop the temperature. They were basically running primitive AC 2 millennia ago. What's wild is that we've been blaming the wrong lead source for Roman decline. While they did use lead pipes, the calcium-rich water formed protective layers inside them. The real danger was their cookware and a sweetener called sapa, which was grape juice boiled in lead pots. That stuff was pure neurotoxin on their dinner tables. Believe it or not, blonde hair was the must-have fashion trend in ancient Rome, but dyeing it was disgusting. Women would rub their hair with goat fat and beechwood ashes, then rinse it with vinegar that had been sitting in lead pots. Dark hair was associated with barbarians, so Roman women suffered through this chemical nightmare to look civilized. Here's the thing about Roman infrastructure that puts modern highways to shame. They built over 250,000 miles of roads, and I'm not talking dirt paths. These were paved, cambered, and drained masterpieces. Parts of the Via Appia, built in 312 BCE, are still carrying traffic today. That's over 2,000 years of daily use without potholes.